the mood for younger farmers coming through? Are obviously land prices are very expensive.
Well, that's the biggest issue as a young farmer. Like land prices, roughly starts at 60,000 euros per hectare, going up to a cropping land of 200k per hectare. Well, okay, let's say 60,000.
Development land prices in Ireland.
But let's say 60k per hectare. Well, you do it. Well, let's say 5% of interest. That's already 3 grand of interest per hectare each year. Times, well, let's say our situation times 50 hectares or more.
How does it work?
How does it work? It worked because interest rates were low. How is it going to work? Keep an eye on your margins. But it's going to be tough next couple of years. Even with, well, if I look at our situation, loss of derogation is going to cost us 30k. Interest rates going up is going to cost us 30k. So that's 60k, and we're still milking the same cows, still averaging the same production, still averaging the same milk yield, rice production. It's tight. It's really tight.
Are there any young people, like, because land is so expensive and the cost of entry is so high, is there, like in New Zealand, would say a share farming model or a leasing option? Is it possible to lease a farm at reasonable price, make a living out of that, and ultimately end up being in a position to buy a farm?
No, I'm familiar with the share milking system. It might work, but we just don't have it. Why? Because it's if you're not a farmer's son or farmer's daughter, it's nearly impossible to get started. You gotta be really lucky. There has to be like an old farmer with no successors, who likes you, who would like to see his farm being passed over to someone new. But yeah, you need it's
And Corrigan, is that model, the share milking model, we're all familiar with it. Is it going as well as ever, or is it under pressure? The last time I was in New Zealand, I think there was fewer and fewer people making the leap to being share milking, and land ownership then is a step beyond that.
I think it's been in decline for quite a long time. In saying that, there are 3 new share milking jobs in my district this season, so there's signs of things changing.
Why is that now? Are they existing owner-operators stepping back?
I believe so. So I think the average Fonterra shareholder is probably mid-60s, early to mid-60s. There are a lot of really good farms on the market in New Zealand right now, and not many of them are being sold because there just isn't the cash to buy them. So I think we're coming to this realisation of, okay, what next? How do I realise my capital? Maybe I'm going to have to realise it differently, and I'm going to fund someone else in.
Okay.
So I think those models are changing. I think the equity partnership shared farming models are alive and well in New Zealand. Yep.
Cost of land, where is it at?
30 to 40 to 50,000 a hectare.
Fully developed dairy farm.
Yeah. Top end would be top land. I've even heard of some in 60 lately, but will have some particular thing attached to it. So it's definitely. I wouldn't.
Where does that sit now relative to previous years?
Well, I was just going to say, I don't think it's necessarily lifted, it's just that nothing's been selling.
Yeah.
So it's been very hard to establish what the price is, whereas now actually a bit of momentum, there are a few things moving.
So there's a bit of opening up there. Is it the same interest among young people in farming in New Zealand as there was? Okay, the share milking route is not as prevalent, but is it still the supply of young farm managers wanting to farm?
I think it's well known that New Zealand's largely benefited from having foreign labour come in, and probably starting to see some of that foreign labour buy farms, or be brought in share milking or share farming arrangements to those farms. It's a really hard question to be able to kind of get oversight of what's happening in regard to young people coming in. Like on our own farm, we've got just an absolutely brilliant 19-year-old girl working on our farm. But the last brilliant 19-year-old girl we had was from Manchester. So it just sort of depends. My gut feel would be there's probably a bit of a realisation in New Zealand that there are really good jobs in agriculture, Aidan, and a little bit of a swing back to it. Certainly there's growing numbers in our universities in agricultural type degrees, etc. So that's positive.
But do they want to go farming, or do they want to go into like consulting roles?
I think quite often they're in a bank or they're in something else, but then I often think that in their 30s they realise that farming is a great place to be, and they often may come into it with a house or some other equity, and that's what gives them the leg up. So I just think the models are evolving and changing. They're not broken. They're just looking a bit different.
Kevin, did you see any sign of that, younger people coming through in the US?
Not really. I suppose I felt probably chatting to the farmers and the people that we met on the tour. They're very, very similar to the rest of us in terms of the barriers facing young people getting into ag. What was actually funny was, so yesterday I went back. Two of us went to speak at our secondary school that we went to, and it was all the fifth years. So there was 50 pupils there in front of us, and we were asked to go in and talk about farming. And I asked them, I said, whose grandparents were farmers? And 48 out of the 50 hands went up. And then I asked whose parents, uncles or aunties are farmers, and there was somewhere between 25 and 30. And I asked who wants to be a farmer, and there was 3. So like you could see the lift away. So but in the US context, so I felt like that they're probably didn't delve into that a whole pile, but they were very, very similar to us. The average age of the farmers that we met was probably a bit high, but yeah.
But are there any, Auko, maybe to you and Cork can come in, are there any initiatives taking place at that school level to encourage people into farming, even if they're from non-farming backgrounds, into agriculture?
I think that the biggest holdback for the Dutch youth is all the bullshit that comes with farming. Like, you got the farming part, working with the land, with the tractor, with the animals. The youth likes it. It's hard work, it's dirty work, but youth still like it. You got all the bullshit that comes beside it, the paperwork, regulations, and that's tough. That's the toughest part.
I think we can all understand that.
But I just want to make a side note, it's the same everywhere. My nieces work in healthcare. My father-in-law works in education. They got the same struggles too.
Okay.
Not just farming.
Anyone any questions or comments or something they want to say in the meantime? Auko, you'll have to go at some point. I see Darren in the front, so you give us... Yeah. No, so we might move on maybe towards technology on farms, adaptation within farm level. Kevin, we've seen a lot of collars go on cows and herds over here the last couple of years. Is it the same in Netherlands and New Zealand?
In Netherlands, any cow has a collar.
Yeah, but it have for a good number of years, you'd say.
Yeah.
Has there been any increase in technology, any new developments there?
Well, last couple of years there's a lot of all those Sense Hub, the AI is going on to Data Mars, all the companies. So yeah, there's going to be, we're just on the doorstep, I reckon.
Okay. You reckon there's more to come in that?
Yeah, way more. Like my parents, they run Dilaval robotics, and they just this spring they started with putting AI on robotics. Now the robots predict when the cow is going to get mastitis, when it's getting in heat. It's really interesting.
Corgan, you were showing me your technology you're using in your farm.
Halter?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
we know very little about it, so let's start from...
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that, but just in terms of cow wearables, we call them, or collars, about 1 million New Zealand cows, so the 4.7 million are now wearing a collar, so that's been quite rapid adoption. There hasn't been any sort of subsidy or anything to help farmers get into them, so it's been funded out of cash.
And success of them while you're on the subject? I know LSC are doing their recording.
I think they're mixed in that, and you guys will have seen it too, there's quite a variation in the quality of the interfaces that you use to get the information out of them. Okay. And I think that's evolving. I think also we've brought them into grazing systems, and so the equations that drive the alerts and things have taken time to evolve. But so that's bringing a shift to all AB for more farmers than it was. But largely I think these things are responses to a declining pool of skilled people with animal husbandry skills, and so they're supplementing that. we've had wearables, NEDAC wearables for 3 years and just sold them and put halter on our herd. And halter is a collar, but it's a collar with a virtual fencing component to it, and it's largely driven off focusing on eating more pasture. So there's a very good piece of software that sits in behind it where the whole farm is, you can see in real time, pasture cover, growth rates, round speeds, all your cow stats, and you're looking to optimise pasture harvested 24/7. And when you've got we're about 280 hectare milking platform, 730 odd cows milking, 2 kilometre walks, paddocks anywhere from 4 hectares to 11 hectares. The ability to optimise grass management with your cows is next level.
So you don't put up reels anymore?
Haven't put up a reel for... occasionally I might put one up to help guide a herd out of a gateway, and that's about it. Yeah.
And in springtime you can allocate whatever many kilos of grass you think that they need for that grazing?
So your spring rotation planners in it, your autumn rotation planners in it, winter grazing, cows onto fodder beet, off fodder beet, onto hay, onto grass.
And the measurement of that grass, is that satellite or is there something on the ground?
And there's an AI growth model engine for every paddock on your farm, and then you're driving the farm or walking and taking your own eye assessments or however you do it and populating that in too, because the more data the better the AI engine. So the thing is just going like that. There's about 250,000 cows now with halter on, and it's a startup that 5 years ago didn't exist. 25% of Tasmania's cows have got halter on them. It's just gone into the US and it's scaling quite quick.
Your own involvement in that, so driving the system, or is it all automated, or do you need to, are you spending an hour a day programming how's it going to go?
My brother probably spends 8 hours a day looking at his phone. But in the combination of, and so he's doing the farm management more than me these days, it's an enhancement to being a good farmer. He has now got, we've got real-time oversight over 450 hectares. You just didn't used to have that, So it was like, well, what are the things I could do and what are the things I'm going to do? You're just doing more of the things you could do now.
Yeah.
Which is all about trying to get margin back and,
Does it do heat detection?
Yep.
And is it a success?
I'll tell you in a few months, because we're right in the middle of our mating period right now. But so far looking really good.
Okay.
Quite excited by what it's doing. Probably not quite as good and developed in the health elements as versus say Sense Hub or NEDAC or etc. But I'm willing to probably tolerate a little bit of that for the benefits.
Yeah. Roughly now the cost of it, what is it?
$120-ish dollars a cow a year. So it's not cheap.
So it's not cheap, no.
So we're spending about around $135,000 in our business per year for that.
Can you quantify the saving in labour?
No, it's.
Has it managed?
Ask me that question, but we're seeing, we probably have saved a full person. So there's 70 something, 80,000. We're eating more grass. We've got better production. We've got more milk, and that was 6% up for the season. We can see the farm changing because the pasture management's getting better. So give it that time, that will flow through in a range of different ways. The other thing, and I don't know how you quantify it, but my brother has got an 18-month-old child, a 6-month-old child, and a baby on the way. And it's about quality of life too. So suddenly he can, they're a young couple, they can make life work and still run a really large dairy farm.
Does it work on hilly ground?
Does it work on hilly ground?
Well, it works even better on hilly ground actually, because you're starting to get cows to go up and eat at the top first of all, and graze down. So that's so it's just moving into the beef sector in New Zealand, but probably the limitation is cash in the beef sector to scale it.
Okay. We're going to have to pause. Auko is going to have to head away, so he's going to take off his microphone. And thanks, Auko, for your time and coming over to DairyDay.
If I can say one more thing to you guys, just stay proud. Stay proud of what you're doing. There's nothing else. There's no liquid as nutritious as milk. No liquid as pure as milk. So stay proud of what you're doing. People need us anyway.
Thanks very much, Auko.
Bye-bye.